we should be good. Let me double check though. So how's your weekend been, Coop?
It's been pretty good. Got a nice haircut. Did some hiking because it was a little bit warmer this weekend. Got to relax a little bit, do some planning, kind of start on my taxes. But
yeah, I need to get all those documents together. Not everyone is mailing them to me this year. I got emails saying like, "Oh, hey, they're going to be digital." I'm like, oh, "Fuck, I just want paper." Get all those documents together.
yeah, I guess it's what your job.
Yeah, a job, and I don't know if like 401k and all that stuff is gonna send it to me this year. I'll just have to find out because I'm only just starting to get most of the documents.
You have until April, so it's not exactly like it's a time crunch.
As soon as I get the first one, it's on the mind. You're like, oh shit, right? Of course, that's something I gotta do.
Gotta pay old Uncle Sam.
Even though they know exactly how much I owe, they could just send me the bill. I guess they don't know about everything, so.
I don't think we've made any money off this podcast, so I don't think it has any.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't also. Well, I guess electricity costs are a loss, but
I don't think that counts as a business expense.
Time lost. We're not getting paid for the time. I don't know. Time theft. Yeah, that's the word.
From ourselves.
Yeah.
Can we? I'm not sure the IRS would buy that argument.
No, yeah, probably not. So what you're saying? You lost how many hours of work this year? Approximately 200. And half that time was spent listening to music. Yes, yeah.
And then talking about that music.
And then talking about, yeah, we were supposed to get paid, but, boss is a stickler. It says here, you're the boss. Yeah. Okay, yeah, all right.
And I'm a stickler.
Yeah, real hard ass. Never gives me a break.
Except all those times that we just skip a week.
Yeah. Hey, to be fair, I think over 50% of the time it's you. So I am
about 50% of the time.
At least the last week was you. So this year it's 100% of the time.
Last year was Lunar New Year.
We're looking at a year by year basis now, and this year it's 100% you.
Well, who knows?
There's been one. Actually, well, okay. I guess we both skipped the first weekend, but we were together.
That's true.
That was literally New Year's Day.
So I will accept 50-50 responsibility.
Okay, hold on. So, yeah. I mean, coming the end of the first month, we're already only hit 50% of the Sundays.
Okay, that's about on brand for what we did last year, so.
Well, no, it's even
less than 50%. At the very least, we're consistent.
Or wait. No, it's over. I take it back. It's over because there's been 5 Sundays and we've done 3 of the 5. So I'm wrong.
So that's so over 50%.
We're already better than last year.
We're batting a good score.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good so far. Well, you wanna get into it unless you got do any cooking. I'm not cooking. I'm just running off ham from last week. So I've got a thing of ham, and I'm gonna have bananas as the side because they didn't have Brussels sprouts.
Ham and bananas.
I wanted Brussels sprouts, but they were all out.
So you got bananas? Is this not asparagus or something?
Well, because they had the bananas were in the clearance the clearance fresh section, where they put all the stuff that like nobody's buying this, but we still want to sell it. So we're going to mark it down. And they had like 10 bunches of bananas. So I was like, oh, I'll just have bananas as a side.
I mean, bananas are a good side. I'm not going to complain about having a banana.
I could live off bananas, honestly. They're so expensive, though. They went back up. They went down, and then they went back up again. They used to be 50 cents a pound, and I think they're... Well, no, they used to be 45 cents a pound, and now they're 55 cents a pound. So expensive.
That's the way of the world right now.
Yeah. Also, it's an exotic fruit shipped from half a world away, so I guess I shouldn't be complaining too much.
But I want them for 35 cents.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I can get apples are more expensive than bananas, and those are grown right fucking here in the state. So what's the deal with that?
I have to ask the fruit man, whoever is in charge of fruit.
I've seen apple trees. They're lousy with fruit. They got more fruit than you can shake a stick at. Why is it so expensive?
I don't know. We'll have to talk to whoever owns Big Fruit.
Yeah, maybe it's because they only produce once a year. That's probably a big.
That'd probably do it.
Probably a big indicator of it. Okay, you got anything, or am I going to keep ranting about
bananas
fruit prices?
I don't know. I say we jump into it.
All right. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Audio Shop Podcast. This week we are discussing The Race for Space by Public Service Broadcasting. That's not Public Broadcasting Service. That's not PBS. It's Public Service Broadcasting. And it's a album themed around the race for the moon, which means it is kind of heavily skewed towards the U.S. because, U.S. won. But it has Gagarin in there. It's got the whole space race in it, not just the end goal.
It's the actual race.
Yeah, I would say, I guess it is kind of balanced because they've got Sputnik as well, but it definitely feels like it skews a bit more towards the U.S.
Well, there's no Russian overlaid speaking, so.
Oh, there is Russian.
None that's the focus, though.
Right, because they're English.
Which makes sense.
But yeah, I'm sorry, I'm reading about, there was, ooh, gosh, okay. So there's two songs on this that were a bit controversial. We'll get to this when we get to them.
Really?
Yeah.
One I can see. I don't know what the second one would be, though.
Oh, well, I'll tell you when we get to it. But let me give a brief history first of Public Service Broadcasting as a whole. They're actually
PSB.
A London-based musical group consisting of 4 musicians known by their stage names, which are J. Will Goose Esquire on guitar, banjo, and other stringed instruments, sampling, and electronical musical instruments, Wrigglesworth on drums, piano, and electronic musical instruments, J. F. Abram on flugelhorn, bass guitar, drums, and assorted other instruments, including the vibraslap, and Mr. B on visuals and set design for live performances. And that is not Mr. B, the gentleman rhymer. That's a different Mr. B.
Well, what's with you and like these goofy, British musicians?
Listen, I didn't know this until I just looked it up for this episode. This is because it's a very straight-laced album.
It is rather straight-laced.
This isn't like when I found Mr. B, the gentleman rhymer, and I'm like, okay, this is stupid, and we have to listen to it.
Maybe that's just their real names.
No, those are stage names, but I will. In the Wikipedia article, they shorten J. Will Goose Esquire's name, and I will refer to him every time by J. Will Goose Esquire. Shit.
What does Esquire even mean?
It means you own land, I believe. It means Esquire, courtesy title. Shit, hold on. Courtesy title in United Kingdom, Esquire historically was a title of respect according to men of higher social rank, particularly members of the landed gentry, above the rank of gentleman but below the rank of knight.
Okay, it's a super gentleman.
Yeah. So it's somebody with land that everybody likes, but they're not a knight. They weren't knighted by the I guess it's king at this point, king or queen. So it's basically as high as you can get without getting knighted.
Well,
nowadays it means nothing.
I was about to say, I don't think this guy owned it too.
Yeah,
owning land.
Maybe he owns land. I don't know, but it's his stage name, self-titled. So anyway, Race for Space is their second studio album. They only have 4. And it was released. I didn't pull that. That was stupid. It was released in February of 2015. So it's been out for a while.
Relatively recently.
Yeah, well, Cooper, it's 2023. It's been that's a hot second ago.
In the terms of music, right? You know.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Last 10 years is pretty recent.
For indie music, though, that's old.
I haven't seen it replicated since, so still cutting edge in terms of that.
So their first album was in 2013. The band officially formed in 2009, when it was just J. Wilgoose Esquire. And then Wigglesworth joined shortly after in 2010. And then J.F. Abraham joined in 2017 for their single Progress. And then a more recent little tidbit of history. On the 30th of August in 2022, they played a specially commissioned album-length piece called Piece 4 Prom 58, called This New Noise, with the BBC Symphonic Orchestra at the Royal Albert Hall in London. It was commissioned to celebrate the 100 years of the BBC, and that stands for British Broadcasting something. Not the other thing you're thinking. Center Circuit. What does BBC stand for? I know there's British Broadcasting.
British Broadcasting
Corporation, duh, of course.
Oh.
ABC, yeah.
American
Broadcasting Corporation. Of course, it's a corporation. But yeah, so they're in it. You know, they're
good to see they're still active.
Of course, yeah. They just did something in recently as well. They literally just set up a website at the start of this year. So
I hope they get in before the .com boom.
Yeah, they're current
early adopters.
They created a creator site using Patreon in order to share updates and content with fans. Ooh,
wow!
So that was just this month. So they are still active. They only have 4 albums though.
4 albums over what? 12, 13 years?
Yeah.
That's not a terrible pace. That's like one every 3 years.
Yeah, so there was...
not prolific, not King Gizzard, but...
Yeah, no one can beat them. So there was Inform, Educate, Entertain in 2013, Race for Space 2005, Every Valley in 2017, and then Bright Magic in 2021. So, but just a little bit more about them. The band mostly plays instrumental music. J. Wilgoose Esquire has said that singing is never going to work. I'm not going to be happy with it. I'm not going to be comfortable playing it to other people. So what they do is they take samples from old public informational films or archival footage or propaganda material and put that over the top. So that is what this album is. It is them playing instrumental music with snippets of news, be it American, Russian, or British, since they're British, over the top. There's quite a bit of comms chatter from like Apollo missions, Houston to Apollo and Apollo to Houston, and then of course Russian coverage for the Russian segments. So they don't sing on this. They do bring in another band to do some singing for one of the tracks, and this first one has some ethereal singing as well, which goes uncredited, but that is not them, because that is very clearly female vocals.
What you're saying? Well, I mean, who knows? Maybe J.W. Wilgoose or whatever his name is.
It's J. Wilgoose Esquire. Show some respect.
Names are made up anyways.
His is extra made up. But yeah, you want to get to track number 1 then?
Yeah, let's start with track number 1. Self-titled, The Race for Space. Titular track, I should say.
Which is very... So this isn't something you put on when you get past the aux in the car, like, yo, put on some music, and then you play this. I'm pretty sure you get kicked out of the car.
While moving.
Yeah, while moving. It's a very concept album. And not concept album in the way that, like, Time by Electric Light Orchestra is concept album. This is a pure concept. We're not going for a lot of musicality. They do.
I would dare say near gimmick level.
Yes, but it's done very respectfully. Especially for some of the controversial ones, which they actually didn't perform when they were promoting the album, because they're like, we're not going to play this live. that's too far. We'll make a song commemorating it, but we won't play it live. That's just kind of disrespectful. So this first one is Kennedy's speech about going to the moon and the other things, which plays out really well. This one is kind of just the speech with some stuff over top of it.
I mean, it's literally just John Fortnite Kennedy's speech.
Fortnite Kennedy. I didn't realize that was his middle name.
Yeah, that's what the F stands for. Really ahead of his time, with like some very minimal, like I guess like electric choir oohing in the background.
Yeah, I mean the harmonies really accentuate the speech.
I mean, I guess kind of. It's literally just it's basically just the JFK speech.
Yeah, and it's not really split up at all. It's kind of just played straight through. Which they're set. It's a concept album. They are setting up the the whole. Thank you. The concept of the album. So yeah, it's just. I mean, it's a good speech.
It's a very famous speech, but I'm not sure if I would, it's not really finger snapping.
No, I say this is not. It's a concept album. It's not something you sit down and be like, "Hey, Sam, why don't you put on the Race for Space? I want to hear John F. Kennedy speak."
I mean, Time's a concept album, and I like listening to it.
Yeah, but Time is a looser concept album. It's got a theme through it, but it's still each song you can listen to individually.
Well, I guess you could make the argument of at what point is the concept a detriment to the actual music?
Yeah. Yeah, and we enter into the weird argument of, well, it's clearly art, but when does it stop being music and just be art? You get where you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Yeah, I mean, in the Racer Space, the first song toes the line.
It's short. It's the shortest song on the album. It's just kind of that setup. It's the prelude.
Now then, let's move on to the next song. Then track number 2, Sputnik.
The second longest song on the album.
Yes, a whopping 7 minutes.
Well, arguably the longest song on the album, because one of the songs that's longer, or the song that's longer, is silent for about a minute. So
minute and a half.
Yeah. But very hard driving bass. It's stripped back. It's got a lot of room to grow in the 7 minutes. And it kind of builds around this driving bass and the beeping of Sputnik to provide the instrumental.
Yeah, it's a very low key song for a big chunk of the time on it. I mean, really up to like the 4-minute mark, it's like just like some low thumping beat with a little bit of like, like guitar and synth kind of sprinkled throughout it. And of course the guy, great achievement of man in space,
Yeah, well, not man in space. It's Sputnik, Cooper. It's just
man-made object in space.
Yeah, first artificial satellite. But yeah, you got all of the radio and TV spots from Britain and England, the same place, from England and the United States and Russia. It's still very electronic. It's got a very slow build to kind of the halfway point where we get to see some nice synth to go with the pulsing bass and Sputnik, and then we get more exposition from the radio.
Yeah, it's like a 5-minute build, which is that's too much.
I mean, yeah, it doesn't so much break out at the 5:30 mark. I would say it plateaus.
Yeah, it doesn't really have a breakthrough. It feels like it's going to build to like some sort of change, or the instrumentation gets a little bit louder.
Mm-hmm. And they add more in as well.
There is some increasing complexity, but it just kind of keeps growing and then kind of dissipates. Which is a bit of a tease when it does it for 6 minutes.
Again, it's a concept, and this isn't something. Of all those albums we've done, sitting down and just staring at the wall and analyzing this one is probably the most mind-numbing. But if you're just listening to it, it's a lot more enjoyable experience.
I actually liked it more sitting down analyzing it than I did just listening to it.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, because when it was like I was catching nothing when I was just listening to it.
Mm.
Besides, man in space.
Well, that's track number 3. We can go to that since you keep talking about it. Gagarin.
Yeah, track number 3, Gagarin,
which was the first man in space. A much different tone for this one. The previous 2 were very ethereal, kind of. This one is kind of funk rockish. It's got some live basses sprinkling on top. The vocals are talking about, obviously, Yuri Gagarin, the first man in space.
Got some like trumpet things going on.
Mm-hmm.
Basically ska, right?
No, just because if it has trumpets, that doesn't make it ska. Is it folk punk? But man, there's this one. I really appreciate the depth to that instrumental line, which it makes sense because that's all they're doing. The rest of it is pre-recorded. But it's so well mixed and stacked. It is a little repetitive, I will admit. But it goes for that. It's a vibe kind of album,
It surely goes for a unique vibe, and I quite like the beat on this one. It's definitely got a lot more energy, and it's a little more, I don't know, proactive than the first 2 songs.
This one is kind of, they're looking at it from a global perspective, I feel. So this is a very happy tone. Hey, it's a success for the human race, rather than if this album were made by a U.S. band, it would probably be, we failed to get the first person in space, that kind of thing.
They just kind of have like any step forward in space is fine.
Yeah. So this is like, wow, we put a man into space. That is an amazing achievement. So it kind of, the tone of the song reflects that. Jump into track number 4 if you're ready, Coop.
Yes, track number 4, Fire in the Cockpit, which I'm assuming this is the one of the 2 controversial ones.
Yes, this is the first controversial track, which they would not perform live. Obviously referencing the fire that resulted in the deaths of the Apollo 1 astronauts in the cockpit when everything was shut down and redesigned from the ground up, basically, in terms of the capsule. So it's a very dark tone, and then the NASA speaker comes in and says they died.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real event. It's a pretty depressing.
Yeah, but I feel like it gives respect though.
Yeah, it's not disrespectful about it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with their position not to play it live.
Yeah, I'm not sure how this would play over with a crowd.
They did play it live at the Manchester Science Festival in 2016. So they have played it live, but I don't know about since.
Yeah, I mean, this one's very minimalistic with the instrumentation, like some low beeping, like a little bit of violin comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the guy talking about the Apollo 1 disaster. But obviously, it's keeping it pretty restrained.
Which I believe it wasn't designated Apollo 1 until after the fire.
Was it? I'm not up to date on my Apollo history.
Oh yeah, okay, hold on. I'm not as current with my Apollo era knowledge as I once was. It was going to be a low orbit test of the Apollo Command and Service Module. There was the fire, of course, which killed Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger B. Chaffee, and destroyed the command module. The name Apollo 1, chosen by the crew, was made official by NASA in their honor after the fire. So the mission was initially AS-204.
Yeah, but I think they play rather respectfully here for the most part. Though I can understand why they choose not to play it live at concerts. But then we can go on to the next track, if you're fine with that, Sam.
Yeah, we can move on.
Track number 5, EVA.
Which, of course, is the first, detailing the first spacewalk, as they are now known.
What is the EVA? I'm assuming that's an acronym for spacewalking?
Extravehicular activities.
Ah, okay.
Spacewalk's got a nicer ring to it.
Yeah. Yeah, but this one has a little plucky guitar, some plonky synth. That kind of picks up the energy given it's, it's fun space romp.
Mm-hmm. And the vocals are a bit better spliced in this one, I'd say. It ends on that "let's go" when it pushes the song forward. They do a little, the cutting in this one's a little bit better. They cut it up instead of just playing the Kennedy speech straight through and playing music over top of it.
We do not get the dubs because it is easy, but because it is hard.
That's a pretty good impression, I'll be honest.
Thank you.
I was gonna try one too, but I'm like,
Gorbachev, meet me at Faulty Tower. Chug Jug with me.
I can sing Chug Jug with. All right, I could sing that one. I know I can do the high vocals for that, but I can't do impressions. Anyway, the instrumentals on this one are amazing again. We got the grand piano, the bass, the acoustic and electric guitar mixed together, and crisp drums.
Yeah, they certainly go for the more have like an inspiring quality to them.
Mm-hmm.
Which obviously, given their documenting, some firsts within the space race, kind of makes sense.
We get the synth that starts peeking its head in around the 3-minute mark. The backing again is kind of repetitive, but it builds well and has just enough variety in it to kind of keep it interesting while the vocals tell their story. Because the vocals are the focus, even if they aren't sung; they're just spoken word.
I do. Man in space. He's walking in space. It's like someone's pointing, like looking at him.
Yeah. They do like to reuse the clips sometimes to give it some oomph,
Yeah. A little bit of character.
We can jump to track 6 if you're ready, Coop.
Track 6, The Other Side. Good old Apollo 8.
The first trip behind the moon when there was the radio blackout.
The dark side of the moon.
Yes. Which is, called the dark side of the moon, but it's just as bright as the side that faces us. We just never see the other side.
Yeah, it's a metaphor.
It's a metaphor. We get some nice pulsating synth that gives some interesting harmonies as it bounces along while Apollo Control speaks about the mission going to the dark side of the moon.
Yeah, it's another 6.5 minute song.
This one
I don't know.
Sorry, go ahead.
I feel like some of these songs could have used a little bit of tightening up.
Yeah, it's very hopeful sounding. Again, it is quite sparse when there's no vocals, but this one's a little bit more artsy because around the 3-minute mark, they're like, okay, it's going behind the moon, and then everything drops out. It's very even more low key, and then it really picks back up when they come back out the other side, sounding hopeful again and pushing forward. But it's just this one's a little far.
I'll say it goes dark at the 3:30 mark.
Yeah.
Get it? Sam, get it? It's a metaphor.
Get it? Yeah.
Get it?
Forgot it. Yeah.
That's why it was quiet for a minute.
Hey,
in the middle of
it's
a
not
song.
as egregious as the later track.
At least it makes sense in this context.
Yeah, it's an art piece. This is
it's an album.
Yeah, but with the indie stuff, you got to think. I mean, his name's J. Wigglesworth Esquire. It's J. Williams Esquire. Wigglesworth is the drummer. It's J. Wilgoose Esquire. But at what point? Again, at what point does it stop being music and it just is art, right? They're not releasing it for acclaim or to play it live, even though they have. It's just we wanted to make this art piece.
Fair. It's, but you also have to be able to judge it as, that piece.
Right.
And, obviously it still really as some sort of like album experience, even like a soundtrack or, some sort of sound collage, still has a certain amount of analysis to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if the concept is mostly this is a clip of someone talking about the space race and we play some light instrumentation behind it, that's not exactly high concept.
Well, that's the only one that they do that in their defense.
What? This album?
No, the first track.
They do it on every track.
There's actual thought put into the instrumentals, though.
No, they're not like, I'm not saying they're like my list, but they're certainly not super complex.
I'll give you that. Jump into track number 7 if you're ready, Coop.
Yeah, track number 7, Valentina.
So this is the other controversial track.
Really? How so?
First woman in space. Fuck, I can't speak Russian. Vostok 6. And it was Valentina Tereshkov. Yeah. Valentina is her first name. Good luck saying her last name. So it was the first woman in space. It was made to better understand females' body reaction to space flight.
Okay.
She maintained a flight log, took photographs, manually orientated the spacecraft. Her photographs of the horizon from space were used to identify vapor layer, different aerosol layers within the atmosphere. It landed. Blah, blah, blah. During flight, the Soviet State Television Network broadcast live video of her from the cockpit. She conversed with the premier over the radio. Sorry, I'm reading and speaking at the same time. Communications with ground controllers about her overall health were described in post-flight reports as evasive, and later official accounts of the mission had somewhat condescending remarks about her overall in-flight performance. Her recount of the mission, she mentioned having assorted body pains and difficulty with her helmet headset. She vomited while attempting to eat, although she attributed that to the taste of the food rather than her physical condition. They provided her with food, water, and toothpaste, but didn't give a toothbrush. It was later revealed in 2004 that an error in the control program made the spacecraft ascend from orbit instead of descending. She noticed the fault on the first day of the flight and reported it to the designer. Flight controllers then provided her with data to enter and to give it to descend. But
so is the controversy just about like her being mistreated in this? It's not about the song specifically.
Yeah, it's just the fact that she was a woman during the time, and it was obviously no one liked her because that's how, for some reason, people used to operate. They looked down on her because she was a woman.
So less controversy with the song. And just...
Yeah, this definitely less controversial.
You made me think that the song itself was controversial.
No. Sorry, the fire in the capsule one was controversial. There was some criticism from critics on Valentina,
like music critics.
Yeah,
because it's a woman in space.
Just she was mistreated, and it was like, well, you didn't really. The song,
but the critics were criticizing the song.
Well, what? Okay, let's get into the song then. What's in the song, Cooper? Did you learn anything about her from this song?
There was female vocals from the Smoke Fairies
sang Valentina.
Yeah,
and very soft acoustic guitar, rumbling synth, smattering of electronic bass. Stays low key throughout.
I'd say that's all on point.
Breaks off and then does some Miracle Musical Disease at the end with some dominating vibraphone, which is big in the indie music scene. But I think the criticism was, it's the first woman in space and all you did was say her name.
Okay, I think just part of the album.
Yeah, But that's, again, I said minor criticism. So it's not only was she mistreated during her spaceflight, the song bearing her name and about her doesn't say anything more about her than just her name. You know, like none of the call log, because she spoke, she was on Russian TV. So I think that's where the criticism stems from.
Oh, I guess I can get that. I mean,
which I'd say is kind of valid.
I mean, it's an album, so using music to convey a feeling, not having someone literally tell you about it in spoken word.
Well, not even tell you about it, but just like every other, it's the most different piece on the track, right? It doesn't have any of the voiceover. They went out of their way to get someone else to sing her name, right? So they kind of, if the rest of the album was like this, I would agree. But the fact that it's the black sheep of the album is like, yeah, I kind of see where they're coming from.
I think it's trying to find controversy where there isn't any.
Yeah, well, that's welcome to the internet. I'm just trying to explain what the critics were thinking in 2015. I'm not a mind reader.
Admit it, Sam. You were the one on those message boards.
Yeah, back in high school.
I wish JFK was in every song.
I think that JFK should be a preamble for every album.
But this is you in 2015?
Yeah.
When you've been like graduating high school, that's
I'm pretty sure we were in college by that point, but
yeah. Then again, now that I think, your voice didn't break until you were 23. I forgot.
Yeah. We started the podcast, and I was still having to fight the voice cracks. Yeah.
You're still getting those testosterone shots up until your mid-20s.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, moving on. Unless you had something.
I think it's a nice song.
Yeah, no, I really like it. It's different. It's very soft. It took me a while to realize that they were saying Valentina, because they don't say it all in one. Someone says Val.
It's very airy.
And then someone says Ina. So jump to track number 8 if you're ready.
Track number 8, Go.
Which
exclamation
is
point.
The first single of the album. The others I haven't bothered mentioning because they don't really sound like singles, but this sounds like a single.
I would agree. I'm not surprised.
It is the only song that you ever hear from this album because it can actually be played alone.
And it actually has a kind of creative way of, I guess, intersplicing the NASA chatter.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's very heavy use of the flight control vocals, but they're cut up significantly more than any of the other pieces to fit with the written instrumental line. And then we got kind of a rockish vibe with the synth playing the main theme, you know, dun 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 dun. I go back and forth with that. So the chorus kind of consists of them saying go no go for landing on the moon with Apollo 11. So it's them going around to all the different people saying, hey, they do the same kind of thing for launch. So when you launch a rocket, you've got 17,000 people sitting at their consoles monitoring data, and the flight control chief goes around and says, all right, they say who they're speaking to, and then that person either says go or no go. And if one person says no go, it's scrapped. So everyone has to say go. And that's what this is here. They're saying go, no go for landing.
Which I think is pretty fun way to intersplice, because they intersplice the goes, you know, into the actual song, which I think is a kind of a clever way of incorporating it.
Yeah. And they're already they're delivered in a interesting manner. It's not just some news person saying go. You know, everyone's got it.
Yeah.
Since it's 17 different people, they're all different voices with different pitches, and it just works.
Plus, it's got a pretty fun instrumentation behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
very synthy, very driving.
I like the main theme quite a bit, and the vocals pop back and forth between your ears as well, as like they're sitting in different spots in the room, which is nice. At the 3-minute mark, the instrumental pulls way back to announce the Eagle has landed, and then it builds right back up into the chorus with some duetting electric guitars rather. Overall, very nice.
I think it makes sense that this was the lead single.
Mm-hmm. I personally, after listening to this again for the umpteenth time, I kind of wanted it to hit harder. It still feels a bit light, in my opinion. For the we've landed on the moon, like this is what the album's been leading to. It feels like it should be more of a harder rock kind of feel, but also that might just be I want to listen to some hard rock right now. I'm not sure which it is. So I feel like it just should have a little bit more oomph, like this is the moment of the album.
I feel like they should have chosen this to intercut Smash Mouth's Might As Well Be Walking on the Sun and just slice it the word moon. Might as well be walking on the moon.
Just completely straight-laced. But yeah, it's the lead single for a reason. This is the one I go back and listen to, and this is what I was listening to say, hey, you know what? We should do this album.
It's a fun lead single.
Yeah. Which I meant to check our drive of have we done this album before, but I forgot to check before this. This might actually be a dupe, unless you've looked.
A dupe?
Yeah.
Of what?
I swear we've listened to this album before.
No, we haven't.
You checked?
Yeah.
Okay. I meant to do it before.
And I definitely would have remembered listening to this album.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe it was a case of I listened to it shortly after we started the podcast.
I guess that would make sense. I mean, it wouldn't be that far long after we started it.
Because I know I know I've listened to this album several times.
Yeah, no, I will say this about the album. You definitely won't forget it.
Yeah.
Its core gimmick's too strong for that to happen.
Anyway, we can jump to the final track if you're ready.
Yes, track number 9, Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
And what if it's just the old Orphan Annie song? Oh, that's where it comes from.
I had no idea.
No idea. Really, off the mark in terms of the concept, but staying power, you have to give points.
But no, this is it's a speech from Apollo 17 of the last
Apollo mission.
Last Apollo mission, last men on the moon for they didn't know how long, and it turns out they said probably not too long. No, it's been a while.
To be determined.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get there next year. Maybe. No, sorry. 25 is when they're actually scheduled to land now. 24 is just a flight around the moon again.
Only 50 years from now.
Yeah. Anyway, it's got more of that vibraphone, which, man, indie musicians love vibraphone.
They do like it works well in this song.
Yeah. I mean, vibraphone's a great sound. I love it too.
So I'm completely down for it in this song.
We got some very light electric guitar giving us a reprise of the theme from Go. Did you catch that?
Oh, but now that you mention it, I do see it.
See, Cooper, do you watch music?
Yeah, how else would I do? I just convert into the Soundwave files, and then I just watch it, then I just judge it based on that.
Huh, wow, that's impressive. But
you know how some people are like colorblind?
Uh-huh.
I'm music blind. I actually can't hear music.
Oh, so you're just deaf?
No, I can hear everything else. I can't understand music. That's why I visually process it. Sometimes I have a music to voice converter. A note, B note, C note, C sharp.
Just sitting there snapping your
fingers.
My finger. Love this song.
Oh man, it's so good.
Just print out the sheet music and read it. Anyway, we get the string support coming in at the 130 mark here to give some, emotional depth to the speech. Not knowing when humans would next set foot on the moon, it pulls back to a more ethereal vibe as it finishes and fully cuts at the 4-minute mark.
Whenever listening to this album, I was working out at the gym and I thought the album was over. And I pulled it up like, what? It's still going?
It's still got half the song left?
Because it was quiet for like a solid like a minute and a half.
It was a minute and a half. At that point, just make a new song. You know, you don't have to. Sure, if you want it to be silent, whatever. But it's a minute and a half, and then it comes back with some ethereal, pulsating synth overlapping many times over with some breathy vocals and very bassy synth playing a very simple beat. But you should have just ended on the impactful Apollo 17 speech instead of whatever this was.
I don't get it. Like the other side I get, right? They went on the dark side of the moon, music cuts out. Yeah. Okay, it's a metaphor. Why do they do this song?
I don't know.
Is this supposed to represent the gap in time between the last landing and now? Or?
I have no idea. Maybe. I think, though, it would have had more emotional impact if it ended on that speech. Right?
You know how some video games have like director commentary where they like explain the game mechanics?
Yeah.
I always just say, "Hi, I'm JB Wugglesworth, and this is the song Tomorrow."
Listen,
when
his
we were
name
making this
is
song,
J. Will Goose Esquire. Get it right.
They're made up.
Wigglesworth is the drummer.
Yeah.
And then it's J.F. Abraham on flugelhorn.
Sorry to these guys, but yeah, it's an odd ending to an album.
Well, I'll be interested to hear your full ratings on it now that we're at the end. Compare it to what Metacritic had to say at the time.
Well, first we got to say our favorite and least favorite songs.
Of course. Don't want to jump the gun. So, what is your least favorite track, Cooper?
It's probably got to be Sputnik. Which, I mean, I think kind of exhilarates or kind of exemplifies the worst traits of this album, which is like a low minimalistic like instrumentation over just a literal straight speech about some space topic. Which that's what this song is. I mean, it increases with a little bit of complexity throughout of it, but it's just, it's kind of overblown for a 7-minute song, given the kind of instrumentation backing of it. I don't know. What about you, Sam?
I can kind of see where you're coming from. Oh, maybe the other side. There was just too much space. Get it?
No, I don't. What? Like a space bar?
Yeah.
Because we typed it on keyboards?
Yeah, exactly. But it was art. It was a bit too artsy for its own good. I like it dropping out and like, oh, they went behind the moon, but it's just so drawn out. Like it could just they need to tighten it up a little bit.
Oh, like outer space. Okay.
Yeah, there you got there in the end.
No, I get that too. It's kind of an awkward cutout. I mean, I think Tomorrow is more awkward, but
yeah, that's true. I like the speech too much in that one though. What about favorite? I feel like we're going to line up on this one.
I mean, mine's Go. I'm assuming it's the same for you.
It's Go.
I think it makes the most of the kind of the angle they're going for. It obviously still has the excitement of the Apollo 11 launch. It has like a good instrumentation. It kind of actually intercuts the speech and kind of does something interesting with the spoken word parts of it. I'm assuming the same positives apply to you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the most fun. It's got the best splicing, which I really wish. The fact that they showed how well they could do it on this one, I'm like, why didn't you do that more on others? Like you could have done something a little bit more with some of the other ones. They didn't touch it as much. Which, I mean, I guess it's easiest to do with this because it's saying, Qualcomm and then go. So it's very short things that can be spliced as opposed to a long monologue. If that makes sense.
I think that makes sense. Well, then, now we have to move on to the actual rating of the album.
We got to rate it.
We've got to rate it.
We have to. Legally, I've got a gun to my head right now.
Wow.
You'll never guess who's holding the gun.
Is it you?
No. It's fucking Bob Dylan, of course.
Oh, no. You have to rate it, Sam.
Rate the album, Sam, or I'll shoot. But before, I'll make you listen to my entire discography.
Oh, please, please. Here's a 27-minute song about the soda pop industry. Bob, you don't even drink soda.
I wrote a 45-minute masterpiece about a piece of land I found. I think it came from a cardigan. Did we discuss his controversy on this podcast at all? I don't think we did.
Bob Dylan?
Yeah.
He had a recent controversy?
A recent controversy.
Oh, this was the I don't think we ever discussed it.
Let's rate the album first. We haven't. We'll do that. We'll do that in the spare tire. We got to devote a lot of brain power to this.
Yeah, okay. So we'll start. So for those unfamiliar with our rating system, obviously me and Sam, big car enthusiasts, we each own at least 3 wheels apiece.
Mm-hmm.
So we made our podcast car themed with that. So it was our rating system. So at the tip top, you got the showroom. This is the party don't stop, cream of the crop. Something else that rhymes with that of just great music that you want to show to everyone. And then like I'm not always firing on all cylinders. I'm still thinking about Bob Dylan. And then way at the bottom, we got the scrapyard, which is the bottom of the barrel. Ooh, get it away from me. Just complete garbo. And then in between, you have like new, fixer upper, use rental. We might give it a higher low depending on our feeling. And that's our rating system. So Sam, what would you rate this album?
I think I would give it a low fixer-upper. I really like it. I'm a big fan. I've listened to it many times. I've listened to it for years. But sitting down and analyzing it, it is lacking quite a bit. I think part of the reason I'm able to tolerate it so well is I'm a bit obsessed with space.
Oh, you don't say.
Yeah. Didn't you know? So I think that's part of it. It is lacking, but man, I really love the use of those of everything, of the non-vocal vocals. So, what about you, Coop?
I'll probably have to give it like a high used rental.
Wow.
A smidge below you. It's not my favorite album. I think it has an interesting core concept. I don't think the concept's bad.
Yeah.
And certainly something that's, an angle that I haven't really seen in an album before. But I think it kind of suffers for it. Like their sampling is pretty subpar in terms of like just literally playing the speeches straight up.
Mm-hmm.
Which obviously that's what they're going for. But I don't think it's to the benefit of the album. Maybe if they could have interspersed it with the instrumentation a little more interesting, like in the song Go. Or maybe had some less awkward song structures.
Yeah, that minute
some of the albums
of silence at the end there was a little rough.
Yeah, I feel like a little more of an expert touch could have gone into this to making this, not even like it has to be more listenable, quote unquote, right? But like kind of a better blending of both mediums. Mm-hmm. Right now, it's just kind of like okay-ish instrumentations with spoken word, snippets from like news broadcasts over it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it could have done something a little more special here.
That's a fair thing, I think. Oh,
I don't think the concept as a whole is trash or needs to be thrown out the window. I don't think it's handled with as deft a hand. I think there's some wasted potential here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which not to say it's completely horrible. Obviously, instrumentations are listenable, but I think it could have been better.
I also have something I meant to share during the Other Side song. I've got a picture here of the loneliest man in space.
Oh, that's a good picture.
Michael Collins. It was during Apollo 11 when they were going down to the surface. He got a picture of the lunar lander and Earth. So he is the only human in history not in that photo.
Wow.
Because obviously, before this, as far as we know, not trying to purport any alien conspiracy theories or anything, but everyone who lived and died is on that rock. The other two are in the capsule, and then he's behind the lens. So, a very interesting photo.
It's a good photo.
Yeah. And then he went around the dark side of the moon alone, which was probably terrifying.
I mean, yeah, first man to do that. I mean, the whole space thing must have been terrifying anyways.
Yeah, but at least they had each other in the lunar lander. He was alone with no contact. So, food for thought. Just wanted to share that because I was thinking about it during the Other Side song. Anyway.
The Apollo missions are pretty cool.
Yeah. Let's roll on over to the spare tire, which we're renaming the Bob Dylan Hour. That's actually our new podcast where we just spend an hour talking about Bob Dylan. We're talking as if we are Bob Dylan.
Let's face it, he lives kind of rent-free in our heads.
Yeah. But anyway, the controversy, which we kind of touched on before, is he was selling a book and he was signing it, supposedly signing it, but he was using an auto pen, which duplicates the writing style. So it's not actually him signing it. It's the pen signing it in his style.
Well, surely there was just too many of them for him to sign, right?
Right, yeah. And it was, you would think that he was charging maybe like, $60. No, it was a $600 hand-signed book was what he was selling. And he didn't even think twice about using the auto pen, supposedly.
Yeah, that's a little suspect. And wasn't it only like 500 of them?
Yeah, I don't think it was a lot.
Which, I mean, that's like half an afternoon.
But the deadline was looming, Cooper.
I mean, I'm sure Bob Dylan's a busy guy, but I'm not sure he's that busy.
Yeah. So the previous cases where somebody got caught out for using an auto pen and it was still just as big as a controversy, the books were like $60. So like, come on, if you're charging $600,
yeah, never an actual signature.
Fucking hand sign it. Like, come on. Oh, but I get tired and I have vertigo. Well, then don't charge $600. It's that simple.
Yeah, don't say you're going to sign it if you're not going to actually sign it.
Yeah. So that's
classic Bob.
I swear he said something recently as well. He almost died in 1997.
Oh, well, that's glad he didn't.
No, I'm just kidding. It was probably suicide.
What? What are you talking about?
Was because the title is Bob Dylan almost died in 1977. Months later, Time Out of Mind revived his career.
Oh.
So he was probably contemplating suicide.
I'm glad he did.
I'm not going to read this whole article, though. Let's talk about what else we've been listening to. Get away from the Bob Dylan Variety Hour. Got to save that for our other podcast.
Yes. What would be a clever title for a Bob Dylan podcast? Like now there's got to be I'll think of it.
I was hoping you would get there.
I had nothing in mind.
Like an ancient stone.
Like an ancient stone. The free talking Bob Dylan hour. That's a must.
The third most searched Bob Dylan term is Bob Dylan still alive?
81 years old, still kicking.
Yeah. Anyway, what else have you been listening to, Coop? It's been 2 weeks.
I've been listening to a few albums. I listened to a Sham album. I thought was pretty good. They have very few listeners on Spotify, and my brother just sent me a link for it. But I thought it was a pretty interesting kind of naturalistic acoustic album. Ryuichi Sakamoto released another album.
Ooh.
Mostly just piano ballads, but yeah, it's always nice listening to him.
I want more Yellow Magic Orchestra from the 70s.
Well, you would have to go back in time 50 years.
Yeah.
Let's see, the band Chinese Football put an album that I thought was pretty good, Win to Lose. And Mac DeMarco put out like an instrumental kind of acoustic-y album as well. Overall, pretty chill music I've been listening to this last 2 weeks. Maybe to fit the winter weather.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Sam?
Just the standard ELO. I listened through Plastic Beach. It had been a very long time since I listened to that, even though it plays in my head almost constantly. Love Pirate Jet. Such a good song. Oh my gosh. But yeah, listened through classic ELO, just going through everything. Caught up fully on one of my podcasts that I was super behind on, starting to try and catch up on the others, so that's taking up a lot of listening time. Venus and Mars.
Bob Dylan fill-in.
Okay, that's pretty good.
We're talking all things Bob Dylan. I'm sorry. Continue. I just had to...
And then Dark Side of the Moon. I was feeling that mellow vibe.
Was there any relation to the fact that you're listening to this album?
No, actually not. It wasn't. I was just at work, and I had what is it? Oh, which one was it? Breathe in the Air in my head. That is one of the Pink Floyd songs that just is almost constantly playing for me in my head. And I was like, you know what? I'm sitting here doing some work. I can probably listen through all of Dark Side of the Moon uninterrupted while I'm doing this. And I didn't. Sadly, I had to put a pause in there, but man, it's a good album.
It is a fantastic album.
So that's all we got.
I think so.
Yeah, if you've liked what you've heard for some reason, you can scroll down on the Twitch page and click the picture of Jeff Lynne. He's the guy with the aviators and the likely fake afro. That'll take you to YouTube, where all the past episodes, minus the one Supertramp that I didn't upload, are. And then if you're listening on YouTube and you like what you hear, explore the channel. We got a lot of stuff there. Maybe shy away from the first year or so of uploads. Those were a bit rough. Before we found our footing, especially the first one. Jesus Christ, we should go back and listen to that at some point.
I do not. Feel free on your end, but I do not want to do that.
It was probably very rough. It's taken us a good amount of time to be able to speak to each other through the internet as if we were sitting face to face.
And remember, your voice didn't break until like episode 50. So,
yeah, it took a while. I was having really struggle before my voice dropped. But if you're watching on YouTube and you want to watch us live, you can come on over to Twitch, 8 p.m. Eastern, Sundays usually, and yell at us in the chat. And we'll probably acknowledge you because no one ever yells at us in chat. So we'll talk to you.
You'll be at the front of the line.
Exactly, yeah. You could pop in right now. We had no chats the entire time. And then if you want to suggest something, you can drop in the suggestion box. We haven't touched that for probably 3 years now, though, so maybe.
Maybe. It has been a hot second.
Liam did ask me the other night if we had listened to that Springsteen album yet. And I said, no, Liam, we're not going to listen to Bruce Springsteen again.
We listened to a Springsteen album.
Once, and that was enough. I was good. I saw a good meme. It's, your dad always complains, oh, you can't understand anything these rappers say. Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce Springsteen is just Rust Belt Bob Dylan.
Yeah. He did have that movie come out about him pretty recently, though. About
that is true.
Wasn't it some guy in India who was like inspired by Bruce Springsteen?
I mean, I never watched it.
I didn't either because it was about Bruce Springsteen.
Maybe maybe that was like the only musician if you'd never heard music before, Bruce Springsteen probably sounds pretty good.
I mean, he is classic Americana. He is, if you were to have to pick a very American sound, I'd say Springsteen would be pretty far up there.
He sounds like what it feels when you touch like jeans. You know what I mean?
Yeah, jeans that you got some hay stuck in them. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good description.
And now we're just talking about Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, that's for our other podcast.
Yeah. Bringing in with Bruce.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if you want to know what album we're listening to and when we're listening to it, you can follow us at Audio Shop Pod. That's POD at Twitter. We'll let you know what we're reviewing, and maybe you can give a listen ahead of time.
Yeah, so that way you can listen to the album and then say, these guys don't know what the hell they're talking about. That song didn't even have any vibraphone in it.
They're just making things up.
They don't actually listen to the albums. They're just making it up.
I just scanned their Wikipedia page and just form my thoughts from that.
Yeah, just look at the waveform and say, that looks like a vibraphone. Anyway, that's all we got this week. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.
See you later, shoppies.
See ya.